Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou te whānau. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Big Hairy News. And yes, as you can see, Chewy has got much cuter, much smaller, and much more ginger. Nala, Chewy's, I suspect, moments away. I have just, might have just heard my friend pop into the chat.
Sorry,
Kia ora
I'm so late. I'm sorry.
Kia ora, how are you?
I'm very late. I might have got my license suspended for suspended driving, or was that someone else?
Oh, I thought you were going to say something too. Yeah, I mean, to be really, really honest, I don't really care about this
neither do
story.
I'm just taking a fucking cheap shot, mate, because I wanted to distract from how late I was.
I did wonder when I saw this coming out about Duncan Garner. I mean, you know, you get a ticket for doing something you shouldn't have done. Oh, well. But I did wonder, because I don't know if you've noticed, well, you probably haven't. I'm the only one, Mug, who watches it, that he's been in a home studio for the last couple of weeks. And I did just wonder, if that's why he's in the home studio. But then I think I saw him today. I haven't watched any of his stuff, but I think he's back in the Rover studio. So, yeah, that was really my only thought. I don't care. It happens. Whatever. Kia ora whānau, kia ora Chewy. Hey, now, the reason because I was a couple of minutes late going live, is this breaking news in the Roy Morgan poll. Have you seen it? Like literally breaking.
I've seen nothing, man, because the news today has been fucking a lot. So I got home and the reason I'm late, I was asleep on the couch.
Okay.
Party hard.
We're doing this live. Do you know that's the name of Bill O'Reilly's podcast? Dick. We're doing it live. The twat.
Yeah.
So I've literally opened up some documents as I was pushing the theme song. So we're looking at this together. Okay. And the reason we're looking at it is because the headlines I've seen so far are interesting. Let's first start with the Prime Minister. This was from a couple of hours ago, basically saying we can't repeat mistakes of COVID. We're doing this well. 1 million super units will get a boost. We'll look at that but later on. Made changes to working for families, 140. So saying, look at us, we're doing great. We've got to keep control, yada, 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 yada. And then this evening, Roy Morgan has National down 4.5% to 26.5. Now, everyone was saying Curia poll, outlier, watch the trends. That's 2 out of 3 in the last kind of 7 days that has National at 26.5%. And there's some rumours going around that there were rumours going around previously, so we're not going to read too much into these other than saying there are some rumours going around that this cabinet reshuffle by Luxon might be in part needed to be done because there's some people nipping at his heels. Because that 26.5% down 4.5, Labour up 4 points, is whānau. The only poll that matters is election day. But this will create headlines and this will create a narrative. So it is important in and of itself by saying, are they really falling off that? Is this So that's what it will do, as opposed to going, oh, look, this is how many seats in the House. Roy Morgan, New Zealand polls support for National-led government and Labour-led opposition now tied. Well, it's been like that for a while. I think they've got the breakdown. I did scroll down once before I pushed live. Here we go. National, look at that. When they were elected, 38.1. They're now on 26.5. 26.5, Act 10, New Zealand First 11 for a total of 47.5. Labour were on 26.9 at the election, now 34. 34, 11 and 3 put them at 48. Again, I don't care so much about the poll, Chewy. I don't care so much about... the trend. But it's also, what narrative will this create? What headlines will there be tomorrow morning? We will be the first talking about this. We are breaking this news in the New Zealand media landscape, apart from independents on Twitter and that. But actually, for a news commentary show, we will be the first to look at that, which we're doing right now. Tomorrow morning, I guarantee it, there will be headlines again about Luxon's leadership, about 26.5, about where Judith Collins was when she lost out, about where Todd Muller was when he was rolled. Well, he wasn't really rolled, he kind of stepped down. But, so this is going to add fuel to that conversation and that fire. Roy Morgan also said that, I'm assuming that this is, I wonder if we're still doing the same. Right direction 31%, wrong direction 57.5%. Government confidence rating 73.5. I'm just wondering, is this the same? Like, is this March 2026? This is probably March 2026. This one here probably. Right direction 34, wrong direction 56. Which hasn't changed that much from the election. Government confidence rating 78. Can't say 10%. Yeah. So it is breaking, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating because, once you get 2, 3, 4, 5 polls that says Nationals in the 20s, no matter how much Mr. Luxon tomorrow will be saying, blah, 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 internal polling goes to England, blah, 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 it actually makes for a headline. And, politics is all about headlines and narratives. The story the right has been very good at selling the story, the narrative, that they're the party of business. They're the safe pair of hands. That story has been sold well by them because it's been picked up and run through the media to create that narrative. Now there's a narrative that will be created, which is Luxon can't win. How can you even think about being like the leader of this party on 26.5%? So whether that's true,
don't dog the guy. Let him do his business.
I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
Don't change horses in the middle of the stream, Pat.
I see what you're doing.
Even if the horse has a lame leg and is actively taking on water.
Was that a mixed metaphor?
Am I mixing my metaphors?
In the middle of the stream? What's the horse doing in the stream?
Well, you don't want to change. Have you not heard this phrase? You don't change horses in the middle of the stream. Because that's a bad place to change horses. You want to change horses on the dry land.
Okay.
But also, if I can mix my metaphors, you don't want to change horses right before you hit an iceberg. Or something. Look, I am just... The news of the cabinet reshuffle was the last thing I saw before I got home. And then I went...
fell asleep.
On my couch from away because I party hard. And all I can think of now, if this is a reactionary cabinet reshuffle, because you can hear the knives being sharpened. Have you seen that sketch show, I Think You Should Leave?
Don't think so.
If you haven't, I'm sure you've seen part of or a reference to one of the sketches that they've done where someone has crashed a hot dog car into a menswear shop and a guy wearing a hot dog costume is imploring that they're all trying to find the guy that did this.
Right.
And I think the man in the hot dog suit is Christopher Luxon. And he's just going to be standing in the caucus room going, look, guys, we all agree this is bad. We've got to find the person responsible. So that's why I'm getting rid of everybody that looks funny at me in the break room. We've got to find the guy that's doing this.
So the Roy Morgan poll came out, not that long ago. 7:04 p.m. was that tweet. So it only came out this evening. And so that when I show you this story, maybe Jenna Lynch has got a bit of a scoop here. This story went up at before 5 p.m. Reshuffled this week as rumours about Luxon's leadership are downplayed.
They haven't started calling him embattled Prime Minister yet, though, because that's the death knell when they start saying he's embattled.
I don't have too much more to share with you about that, Whānau. Literally, I saw an email from Clint. Thanks for the email, Clint. As I was about to hit go on the credits, or the opening credits, and that's okay, Whānau. We get to look at it first, and then we get to sit back for 24 hours and see what the commentators are all saying about it, because it's it's this thing that even if it's not real, meaning even if those aren't the numbers, this is not a good look. See that's how much of a hurry I was in, Chewy, when I was watching stuff. I didn't put my lights on. There we go. That's better.
Look, I'm torn. Like, there's part of me wants Luxon to take this all the way to the election, because I don't think that they can win with him. The other part of me thinks if they roll him, who's there that can take them to a win? Who's likable enough? Who's competent enough? We've talked about the depth of their front bench being fucking generously ankle deep. And I think once the rot sets in, I don't think you can stop it. I think he's going to hold on with his fucking fingernails, because he's taken them to election night. He won't do time in opposition. It's not like he's going to slink back into a portfolio where he actually has to do work, lick his wounds, and contemplate himself, is he?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, like, I don't think many people would think he'd go back into opposition. He'll just resign. He'll do something like, it's the
he's there for the knighthood.
The people have spoken, yada yada yada. But you're right, because one of the things he certainly wouldn't do is go back in and start working a portfolio or two, because,
I think the whole idea of him being Prime Minister is because we've heard about his Saturday night dinners with Sir John Key. And I think he's doing it for the lols. He wants to get that knighthood, open the door to Sir John Key and go, "Oh, come into my house, Sir John Key. Oh, thank you very much, Sir Christopher Luxon." And I want to make it my life's mission that never happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, in the world of politics, if you're Prime Minister, if you're Speaker of the House, if you're Governor General, those honours seem to come with it. It would be interesting, though, if he was a Prime Minister for 2 years, in other words, got rolled before the election, would he still? I don't know. He probably would, to be honest, Chewy. I'm not saying
Come
I
on,
agree
Christopher
with it,
Bishop, make your run. Come on.
I think the headliners are probably the Bish. Erica Stanford would still be in there as well. I mean, people talk about Simeon Brown, Paul Goldsmith, and obviously Nikki Noboats. Nikki Noboat. Well, they'd have to get a booster seat for the front row of the of Parliament House, and I think Nikki Noboats is going to always be in there purely because she's number 2. I mean, I don't think she's got a shit show, but her name would be bandied about. So, all right. So watch this space tomorrow morning, Whānau. It's going to be a fun few days if you're into that kind of stuff, like pain,
a bloodbath, political, a spill.
Yeah,
like a spill. That's what they are. We can breathlessly say, "Is the spill on? Is it gone by lunchtime?" We've already done that this year.
We have already done that this year. Yes, we're gonna for Code Brown. No Code Brown. We should have to get a T-shirt done with that. Right. Let's have a look at a few chats that have come in, then we're going to move into the actual show. Isn't this the third poll that's bad for the Nats? They had that Courier, which was 28, I think, and then there was another one the week after that where they were on about 32, and that's what we got told by insiders that their insider polling was saying. But this is worse still. This is worse still. Thanks, Lytton. Danger of Mouse. It's because we're all tired of all the winning. Pete says, I think Luxon could underperform Bill English's 2002 result of 20.93. I think the question that goes along with that, if he does, what does that mean for New Zealand First? I mean, realistically, does that mean a 20% New Zealand First vote? Are we looking at, ACT on 10, New Zealand First on 20, National on 20, or are people just going to either not vote, or are there enough sort of swing voters that some will drop across to Labour? Wonder, don't know. Remember, every prediction I ever make is wrong, so just remember that.
This is a weird aspect of New Zealand First, right? Is that ACT has been pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've been growing, but in relatively, whereas New Zealand First is fucking all the way out, and growing strongly. Like, I don't agree with any of his rhetoric, almost none of his policies. But the thing that Winston is a populist. He'll play into whatever misguided bullshit he thinks will work.
He's a populist for some sectors of society.
Yeah.
Which I guess is what populism is, ironically. Very, very hated by a sector of society and loved by another. Polarizing. Populism is polarizing, I would say, because if we've learned nothing from the Prime Minister, it's alliteration. Fetu says Israel passed death penalty law for Palestinians. Expand on that, Chewy. Haven't seen this.
So you haven't seen this, Pat? So in their parliament, whatever they call it, this is Ben Gvir's pet policy. They're bringing in the death penalty for people that are charged with terrorism, and there is a caveat there that the charge must be an existential attack on Israel. Now, of course, most of these charges are brought through military courts, and it means that if you're convicted of this, death by hanging in no less than 90 days, and there is no clemency.
And there's currently thousands of Palestinians in Israeli prisons who would all come under that. Is it retrospective? Do we know?
I don't know if it's retrospective. I would imagine that they would want it to be. I would also have big concerns of how this would go. Like, I've seen the language that they're using to describe people defending Lebanon as terrorists. So I think this is very, very dangerous, and this gleeful motherfucker.
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say, let's have a
dark days.
It looks like he's literally about to pop champagne.
Oh, he's stoked.
Israeli officials have passed a law approving the death penalty for Palestinians convicted of deadly attacks. Following the vote, Israeli far-right minister Itamar Ben-Gvir was celebrating, yada yada. He's been one of the major backers. Death penalty for terrorists now, he's saying.
Now, bear in mind, this guy was too extreme for the IDF.
Yeah. For Palestinians in the occupied West Bank, gives the courts the authority to impose either death penalty or life imprisonment on its own citizens. 62 lawmakers, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, voted in favour of the bill, 48 against. The legislation has drawn international criticism. Rights groups say it could violate international law. Because, of course, you'd think of that saying as well, one person's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. So this is the problem with those labels. The law comes while the world is busy. That's interesting. With the US-Israel war in Iran, amidst international complicity, in the face of the scale of the ongoing aggression against the Palestinian people and specifically against prisoners, this is a crime against humanity. This is a crime against the law. Over 10,000 Palestinians are believed to be, that's what I was saying, held in Israel jails, many without charge. The decision is a pain in my heart, says one of the mothers of a Palestinian prisoner. I can't sleep properly. I keep thinking of what's going to happen to my children. And I was hoping they would be released during the ceasefire deal when I would see them, and then I would see them. The law is expected to face legal challenges in Israel's Supreme Court. And that's it. Reporting from Al Jazeera. Yeah, the blimmin' literal popping the corks is. I mean, there's a lot that's gross within that, but that's particularly gross.
The other interesting comparison I saw today is that Israel has taken the same percentage of Lebanon as Russia has taken from Ukraine. In the comparison of the international outcry when Russia did it, compared to the almost complete silence from the international community about what's happening in Lebanon now.
But Chewy, as we learnt last night from an unfortunate source, doesn't Lebanon have the right to exist?
Lebanon has the right to exist. Lebanon also had nothing to do with the other excuse that Israel has been using, you know, the October 7th attacks, which is it was the justification for this absolute orgy of killing that they have been on. This, we don't care. Our mask slipped, it fell on the ground, nobody's stopping us. You know, the guy holding our leash is not going to slow us down at all.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I would imagine that Christopher Luxon will, in 4 months' time, will decide that this is bad and say something about the international rules-based order, and we can all just sit back and pat ourselves on the back. This is disgusting, and I despair for the world, because there seems to be no limits for Israel.
Yeah.
And stuff that seemed crazy, like the reference to the idea of the greater Israel. That couldn't possibly... Look at that map, fam. Look at that map, chat. See how much of Lebanon is part of greater Israel.
I can only assume as well when you say in 4 months' time when Christopher Luxon realises it's a bad thing, that's when he's a backbencher. Is that what you're saying? From the backbenchers, he'll be saying, "That's a bad thing." That's the Christopher Luxon you're talking
actually
about?
a good point. In 4 months' time, he might be just on a Hawaiian golf course, hanging out with Sir John Key.
Gold says, "I think I need to go back and catch up. Also, 208 days to register, #late fee. Laura says, "Can we sanction Israel already?" And Overred Rover says, "If there's only one poll that matters, trend or not, how do we know National are going to lose so bad that a new leader may be necessary?" Well, I guess the reality is you don't know. But if we're talking about the narrative, right, and with a new leader, often there's sort of a new sense of excitement. Let's look what happened with Jacinda in 2017. There's a new sense of excitement that comes in behind them. They kind of go, "Oh, phew, we've got rid of that dropkick who was there, who wasn't going to get us there. Maybe we'll put all our hope." Look at Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, when she came in those last few months, there was a massive groundswell behind her. All the polls were looking at she was going to win. Doesn't mean they're gonna, but often a change will do that. And if it's done at the right time, and I think Jacinda's an example of this, it's almost like you can get the maximum amount of tailwind without any of the, okay, now let's start. It's you get the full honeymoon period. Whereas too far out, you get the honeymoon period and then reality. A really good example of that is Don Brash in the Orewa speech. That gave him a massive bump, but it was too far out from the election. He rode it for a while and then it started to tail out and they lost that election. If that had been maybe 2 or 3 months later, they might have been able to ride that all the way into the election. So there's different things that can happen with that. All right. Hey, now speaking of, and I said last night that I was going to approach Labor to come and talk about the benefits and stuff increasing, because we had some very good news yesterday from our Prime Minister. Remember, this is from yesterday's show. He said this.
Okay, and potentially extending that targeted in work of families relief that you gave to low and middle income.
Well, that was a good example, right?
You can extend that to beneficiaries?
Well, no, beneficiaries are actually getting a big increase, or a good increase this in April 1.
Okay, so a big increase. I'll double check that. I'll take a step back and say a good increase. And so let's have a look at what is coming out tomorrow for retirees, beneficiaries, etc., etc., etc. This is the Prime Minister, what the Prime Minister considers a good or a big increase. Remember, the question is being asked at the time where some younger families are getting $50 a week, right? So there's a yardstick there for what is an okay amount of money that this government seems to is good. So you would hope that a good amount / a big amount of money might want to sort of match that. Because remember, the answer to that question was based around how do we have extra help going to these more vulnerable people or these other vulnerable people groups? And the Prime Minister said we don't need to do that because they're going to get a big amount / a good amount from tomorrow onwards. Let's have a look.
And from pay packets to the pension, tomorrow marks the start of a new financial year with changes affecting many Kiwi bank balances. Minimum wage workers get a bump on April 1st, the hourly rate going up to almost $24.
So 45
Superannuation
cents, 45 cents there, 45 times 40.
5 cents.
45 cents. So that's going to be $16 a week before tax, $16 a week, give or take.
Veterans' pension also rising. A single person living alone will receive a little more than $1,100 a fortnight.
So I missed that first one. That went from $10.87 to they're getting it's a fortnight, so that's $130, $140, so $70 a week. Okay, so superannuitants, Chewy, are getting similar to what the young families are getting, so maybe $70 a week.
Couples getting a bump to around $1,700.
If you're a couple, you get about $50 a fortnight, $25 a week.
Job seeker for a single person over 25 will increase by $11 a week, and KiwiSaver changes also kick in from tomorrow. The default contribution for both employees and employers rises from 3 to 3.5%.
So beneficiaries, I guess you're looking at job seekers they get $11 a week. The minimum wage, if you're working a 40-hour week, goes up by about $16. A single pensioner gets about $70 a week. Married pensioner gets about $25 a week. I just want to go back one more time and just get the words that we used from the Prime Minister about what people would be receiving tomorrow.
Okay, and potentially extending that targeted in work of families relief that you gave to low and middle income.
Well, that was a good example, right?
You can extend that to beneficiaries?
Well, beneficiaries are actually getting a big increase or a good increase this in April 1, is it?
A big increase, a good increase. So Chewy, someone on what we used to call the dole is getting $11 a week. Minimum wage, $16 a week. Single pension is $70 a week. That feels like I'll concede compared to 50. That seems like an okay amount. Pensioners who are married, $25 a week. Your thoughts about the big / good amount, the increase that this government's delivered?
What's the percentage increase?
Now you make me go back. I mean, it won't.
Well, you're the one that likes maths.
Yeah,
But,
I know,
but
but
my point here is, did they mention what the percentage increase is? Because I want to see how it compares to inflation.
Okay, well, job seekers going up $11 on 361. So 10% would be 36. So 5% would be 18. So it's 3%. Job seeker is 3%. $11 over 361. Probably not quite 3%. 2.5 or so. Probably matching inflation.
Okay. If it's a match to inflation, then you can't call it an increase, really, because it's
Not a real world
comparison
increase.
It's marking time. It's treading water. Like, don't get me wrong, it's good. These things, like, it should be indexed on inflation, but that's just to keep you in place. It's not an increase.
3%. So $11 divided by 3.6 to bring that 361 down to 100.
Adjustment.
Yeah. So they're keeping up with inflation with at least that one. I didn't write down the numbers for the other one. But let's just say this, even if it was a little bit better than inflation, a big increase is what the Prime Minister said. And this is because he said, remember, this is the reason we don't need to help them with the in-tax credit that some young families are going to get, because they're getting a big increase, $11, $16, $25 a week. Maybe not so much. But hands up, who's surprised? We kind of knew that. We kind of knew that was coming. Alrighty, we've kind of started the show a bit strangely tonight, haven't we? Because we just sort of got on with this. Just want to let people know that most of you have had your merch sent out to you. There are some new orders from yesterday onwards, which we haven't packed yet. But everyone else is basically out there. Most people will have received a clarification or a tracking number sent to them. A couple of people, I forgot to check the box that says send a copy to the recipient. So you won't have received one, but I've got tracking numbers for you. And other than that, it's all rock and roll. I didn't have time today to put the new stickers on. The new stickers on the shop.
I know people. You were supposed to get it done on the weekend, chat. And this just leaves that deal just wide open for you to take advantage of.
I'm not even mentioning that deal anymore because everybody knows it.
Punish him.
Everybody,
him, chat,
everybody knows what it is, and I'm not going to try and overhype it. It's literally that I didn't have time today. I was doing more packing and sending. Thank you, New Zealand Post. Yeah, so there's a few interesting things to talk about tonight. I was watching the news as to what to talk about, and there's a scrap going on between Todd Stephenson and Louise Upston at the moment, and it is delightful to watch. Again, though, Chewy, it's one of those situations where some people who you would normally rally against or rail against seem to be saying the right things, which is disconcerting. And they're basically fighting over the $70 million, I believe Todd Stephenson calls it a slush fund, to bring international acts and stuff to New Zealand. We'll have a look at that because it's actually, it's actually a pretty interesting little scrap going on with some interesting things being said. We have a story for you tonight about care workers and them getting an increase. Now, I was trying to work this out, Chewy, because I like maths. Care workers get 63 cents a kilometre for petrol. I worked out, like I used to have a pretty uneconomical car that would use about 10 litres to get 100 Ks. Now, if it takes 10 litres to go 100 Ks, that means 1 litre does 10 Ks. That means 1/10 of a litre does 1 K. And if fuel is $3.30, that means it's 33 cents per K for a car that is not economical. And care workers, and remember, whānau, this is not said from, I'm not kind of, well, they get enough, I'm just trying to work it out, are getting 63 cents a K for driving their cars. And obviously there you got to have to include in that things like costs, you know, tyres are going down, got to replace all of those. But I want to figure out what would be a fair amount, because in an uneconomical car, maths that I've done, in an expensive time to buy petrol, it's still potentially 63 cents per K is still potentially double what the petrol would cost, only just the petrol would cost to run that car. And I feel like I'm missing something and I want to know what it is. You know what I mean? Make any sense?
Yeah.
I mean, or is it they don't get paid an hourly rate whilst they're driving their cars, and so that's why it needs to be $1.11 a minute or whatever IRD says, because they have to include their hourly rate. Yeah, that's $1 something. That's what IRD says. But see, if it's $1 something, and I'm not on the side of screwing people out of money. I just want to understand. If my car, my previous car, my Outlander, which was very, very, very uneconomical, buying petrol today at $3.30 would do a kilometre for 33 cents. $1.11 or whatever is my ID. That's nearly 4 times what my very uneconomical car would cost. So trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out. And yes, I appreciate that people aren't having a crack too much and just kind of being lighthearted. So, because if all they're doing with it, if it's just for covering petrol, and I don't know if it is, then it's double what they're getting. Help me, care workers. Help me to understand. Educate me. I acknowledge fully I'm the dumbest person in the room now and I want to understand it. Is it because someone said 15 kilometres without reimbursement first? Okay, so is there something that we're missing in this equation to make it? Is it including their hourly rate because they don't get paid whilst driving? Are you going to show us something? Okay. Go for it, Chewy. I can't see it very well. You can read it out to me.
Oh, I'm not reading this whole thing. It's a very dry balls page from the IRD. But look, my partner used to do some support work, and was filling a gap down in Southland and that sort of thing. And one of the first things that the government was doing was making sure that support workers didn't drive out of their area.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're a troubled youth in need of some therapy in Southland, go fuck yourself. There's no one there. Get over it.
And also remember that this introduction is actually talking about what we're talking about later. We're kind of started to go into the conversation now. So we can do that.
But yeah, I mean, I guess the per K mark, look, it's not supposed to cover just petrol. It's wear and tear on your car, or it's road user charges, insurance, all of that sort of thing. That is your reimbursement for using your personal vehicle for your work. And I think, lots of businesses use that same thing. If I was required in my work to go to another shop and train people or fill a gap or that sort of thing, that's how I'd be reimbursed on the mileage on my car.
Yeah.
I think it's more to the point where we're talking about support workers.
Yeah.
Is, some of these guys, or a lot of these guys, will be affected by the pay equity stuff as well. It's not a particularly well-paying job as well. So that expectation that support workers, because they weren't mentioned, they weren't the first cab off the rank. They weren't what this government thought about when they were looking at fuel spiking because the world's gone crazy. It's taken pressure from the media and those support workers to go, hey, what about us? Am I having to do this out of my own pocket? What? I barely make more than minimum wage as it is.
Yeah.
For a lot of them, that reimbursement is a key part of their remuneration. So to see that percentage go through the floor because the petrol's gone up,
And also, I want to talk tonight about Chris Hipkins, all these accusations around what they knew in myocarditis and teenagers and stuff. And I have to be honest with you, Ryan Bridge shocked me today, adopting the language of the anti-vaxxer. Every time he talked about, every time, and you'll see it's shocking. It's a long clip, but we might try and watch the whole thing. Every time he talked about the COVID vaccine, every time he called it the jab and the jab. Like every time. It's really ugly. But first, before we do that, look, because we never want to give out wrong information, single pensioners do not get $70 a week. It's $11.50 a week. Come on, guys, correct this. I'm going to go back and look. Don't ever want to put out wrong information. So this is what single pensioners get now, $1,076. Then my numbers get completely wrong. Okay, yeah, you're right. I thought that was 140, but it's like 40. So 1,076 plus 24 would be 1,100. Yeah. Okay. My numbers are out. So there you go. I was wrong.
Thanks for keeping us honest, chat.
Totally. So that's more like 76, 24 plus 10 is 34. So yeah, it's $17. $17 a week, not $11.50 either, but you are much closer than I am, Anthony. And thank you for, that's what happens, Chewy, when I try and do maths on the fly. So there you go. We can change that. That 70 goes down to 17. Okay. Funny because I was thinking, gosh, the government's being generous. That's unique, but they're not. Appreciate the call out then, because don't want to do that. Would have been misinformation because it was done in error, but don't want to do that either. Well, let's do this, shall we? Let us actually talk about that exact story we were just doing. If I can find the video for it somewhere, anywhere. There it is. And actually, one news did a really good story about it, but 3 News did a story about the caregivers getting more cash, and they expanded on it a bit and talked about some more of the daily news around fuel prices, etc., etc. So it's sort of more of a coverall. Let's get to it and see what they had to say.
Well, the Commerce Commission is warning that the cost of electricity will rise by an average of $20 per household this winter.
Now, my first question is $20 total. So $7 a month. Because you didn't say $20 per month. Again, sorry to be a dick with numbers, but $20 this winter. When I hear that, I think 20 per month, which is different from $20 this winter, which is 7 per month, give or take. How would you read that, Chewy?
Yeah, like that's like my first thing was like $20. What, a month?
But they didn't say that. $20 over winter.
No, and like this is my thing. I've noticed this creeping in more with the news media is that they need to be clearer in their language. Like
people even saying 20 a week.
Yeah, like specify. Like I was talking, like slight tangent. I was talking about the fuel situation with a colleague, and the wording. It was around what Korea had said that they were going to supply. Mm-hmm. And they said they were going to supply orders, or the same amount of orders from 2025. And just the way it was worded in the story, you could read it as, so they're only going to give orders that had been already made, like made last year for delivery this year. Or as it's reported elsewhere, they're going to supply us the same amount of fuel that they did last year, no more. Mm-hmm. But because of the language that they used, you could read it either way. And the way that this story has been positioned, they've said $20 a week, and they're not given it an extra $20 this winter, but not clarified that or given it any context.
So I'm looking at One News's website right now, and it says now is the best time to check and change power bills. The head of a power bill comparison website says electricity line charges will increase by as much as $20 a month from Wednesday. So 3 News, we've come to you to look for the story, and you haven't really done well enough. So TVNZ, according to the Commerce Commission, according to Paul Fuge, F-U-G-E, from Consumers Power Switch. Said $20 a month. So there you go. We'll go with $20 a month. Sorry to spend the first 2 minutes of this talking about something that was unclear, but you can hold 3 News accountable for that.
Mm. But there is government relief on the horizon for care workers facing higher fuel costs to get to their patients. Here is Zane Small with the details.
Win free fuel now. A billboard promotion by radio station The Hits. That hits home as the price of petrol soars. $250 of petrol up for grabs for Easter weekend.
This should be a campaign of stay home for Easter. Don't use the fuel.
I said that exact thing we were talking this afternoon. I mean, I grew up in Auckland, so sort of my traffic vibes still go around the Auckland Northern and Southern motorway. And, we used to holiday in Northland. So, Boxing Day, motorways crawling all the way, same for going south down to Coromandel and that. And I just wonder if the motorways will be more empty this Thursday. People won't be going away like they were in mass numbers because of the cost of fuel. Be interesting to see.
There's still the same stories. Plan your Easter road trip. Win fuel for your Easter road trip. There doesn't have to be an Easter road trip. There is a fuel crisis. It's cripplingly expensive. Stay home. Where is that messaging?
And should we just point out as well, you might be winning 1 tank of fuel with that. So, how far are you really going to go on your road trip when you're winning a tank or maybe a tank and a half of fuel?
But the Deputy Prime Minister is calling for cool heads.
I think
just remember the Deputy Prime Minister at the start of all this went, well, people want to hoard fuel. It's their right to do that. That was his commentary right at the start of this whole thing, just for clarity.
if you look at the circumstance in general as far as fuel goes, we are not in bad shape right now.
The latest update from officials shows there is enough fuel for more than 50 days. But that hasn't stopped the cost of fuel from rising. That's because the Strait of Hormuz, through which a fifth of oil trade passes, is still blocked by Iran, with traffic down about 95%. And the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb is now threatened by Yemen's Houthi rebels, who've fired at Israel in support of Iran. With no sign of an end to the conflict.
So it seems like it's getting kind of calmer over there, Chu. Things are settling down finally, and it's getting calmer for us all.
91 petrol is projected to hit $3.70 a litre within the next week or so. And the oil market, as you can see, is extremely volatile, with sharp peaks and valleys.
Every passing day, week or potentially month makes this fuel crisis worse, both in terms of the price that is rising for the price of oil and refined products, the disruption to supply.
The government has heard the concern of community home care workers who face higher fuel costs to get to their patients.
They're already provided a mileage rate, and the issue, of course, is you know, for all New Zealanders, the mileage rate, the cost of fuel has increased dramatically, and we're now working.
Were you aware of that, Chewy? Cost of fuel has increased dramatically. This is breaking news.
Excellent freeze frame. just giving Discord a chance to chop his head off.
Is that because
that's
a 420 frame? Is that what we're saying?
That's a very sleepy 12-year-old.
Is that past his bedtime?
Through what is needed to
tuck it out,
address the challenges that they're facing.
And now a warning from the Commerce Commission that electricity prices are set to rise by around $20 per month for an average user.
On 1st of April each year, the electricity network businesses set their prices, and so the retail prices tend to follow that.
Electricity prices already shot up more than 13% in 2025, but the Commerce Commission has assessed the upcoming price increases as fair.
But thankfully as well, Chewy, we're going to have an LNG terminal that's going to sort all of this out for us. This government's onto it. And they're going to get LNG from the straits of their buttholes, and we're going to be all good from now on. And when there's a war on and the LNG quadruples in price, we'll just be thanking the good Lord that Christopher Luxon and his cronies decided rather than put $1 billion or more into renewables, we'll put it into a fossil fuel product that comes to us from the southern states of America. Yee-haw! Problem solved.
Network businesses were heavily invested in the 1960s and 70s. And we're coming to the end of the sort of useful life of a lot of those assets. And so they've got, unfortunately, a big reinvestment requirement.
The high cost of
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Oh, yes, I do. So those power networks and assets that were built by the people with public money, owned by the state, and then hacked apart and sold off in the orgy of public asset sales. And then those people that scooped up those assets in those companies, they didn't reinvest their money into the network. They didn't replace their power poles and their lines and do the work. They cruised on decades of paying dividends out to their shareholders. And now there's like, oh shit, everything's fucking broken and we've got to do it in a hurry. So now it's expensive. I want you to, we know this. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but any time someone like David Seymour gets up and says the private sector will do this better, more efficiently and cheaper, spit on him. Because this is what happens every time.
But if you don't want to get arrested for assault by spitting on him, then what you could do is you could just start pointing to things like Blue Bridge. Remember how often they went on and on and on and on and on and on and on about Blue Bridge in the private sector. And the Blue Bridge has been grounded by whoever the officials are in the maritime region for there being a fault on their ferry, which they now won't let sail for an indeterminate amount of time. But private sector, Chewy, that's the way to go. Come on. All right.
How many times do we have to learn the same fucking lesson?
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
The high cost of electricity has cast a long shadow over the manufacturing industry, and the Jukin timber mills in Kaitaia are the latest to face potential closure.
Oh, Mr. Luxon.
Back on track!
Why are you closing down the timber mills, Mr. Luxon? Why are you doing that?
Back on track to the late 80s, to the mass job losses in the factories. You know, with the news of Waddies and Heinz closing their factories, took me right back to being like 8 or 9 years old when my dad worked for Waddies and they closed the factories in Timaru.
Yeah.
You know, Timaru's already copped the closure of a freezing works. These guys are going to cop the pulp and paper mills and the timber mills. They're all closing down. This is where I point out that the Green Party have for a plan for this area. for us to mill our own timber, to build our own houses, to provide green jobs.
Wow.
Makes sense, right?
And then can we also tag on to the back of that how we can generate our own power in this country, renewable, like an endless source? And we can start getting onto that. Maybe we could do something like a green Ministry of Works, Chewy, something like that to help out. And do you think we could go that way?
We could. And thank you, chat, for mentioning this. Remember one of the projects that the government cancelled because it was an enormous waste of money that would never, ever, ever work because it was a big old dumb idea? Yeah, Lake Onslow is now a private development on the fast track list.
So the private sector says there's profit in doing it. This government said it's too expensive. Have I got that right?
Well, no, other way around. Government said it's too expensive, so we're not going to. We shouldn't put public money into it. It's a boondoggle. Yeah. It's a terrible thing. It'll never ever work. But the private sector was waiting in the wings for the government to get the state out of the way, and then they can swoop in and go, well, we know that there's been a whole lot of work done making sure that this will work, so we don't have to do that now. So we can just get on building it. Thank you very much, Christopher Bishop.
We are going to have to get our own tinfoil hats, Cherry, that just behind us so we can pull them across and put them on from time to time. I used to work very, very low entry-level part-time job, but used to work for Coca-Cola. Like I would work in the offices over the weekend when there was no one else there, and when a pub had a machine go down, they'd phone the 0800 number and I'd send out the technicians. It was sort of a part-time job while I was at university. But I heard all the stories, and the stories of, for example, either Coke or Pepsi going into an area or going into a bar and saying that we will pay to, make you look beautiful. Obviously we'll brand it as Coke, but the deal is you got to not supply those other guys. You got to keep distance from those other guys. So we become your exclusive supplier of product. First time ever, tinfoil hat coming out from the back. I wonder if the privateers, who have obviously had to get various council consents or government consents or permission or whatever it is to do something like Lake Onslow, have had some kind of non-compete clause in their contracts to not allow us, the people, the government, to compete against them in some renewable areas. You understand what I'm saying? So if the government started mass production of renewables all over the place, then that effort at Lake Onslow probably wouldn't be as valuable and probably wouldn't make as much profit. I wonder with my tinfoil hat on, if there's any kind of non-compete clause in that private company's deal with New Zealand to do a private dam to not have competition by public renewables anywhere. Just a thought. Let's get into this video, eh?
Hundreds of jobs on the line. The Japanese owners said it reflects a combination of ongoing structural and market pressures affecting these operations, including declining demand in key export markets and increasing operating costs. And with electricity prices set to rise even more, the Commerce Commission is under no illusion that budgets will be squeezed.
Certainly we acknowledge that this is not coming at a good time for New Zealanders. Obviously with petrol prices increasing substantially, this is a very unwelcome addition to the household bill.
The government is under pressure to provide more financial relief, but with net debt at $191 billion, the Beehive is reluctant to borrow more to spend more.
Yeah, but we need proportional. What does that mean? What does that net debt mean? Like, as an individual, if someone goes, God, my net debt is $1 million. Oh yeah, I own 7 properties and they are valued at $12 million, then the net debt isn't actually that bad. So we always need proportional. What are the other numbers that go around our net debt to find out if it's a good, a bad or a neutral thing?
Financial relief. But with net debt at $191 billion, the Beehive is reluctant to borrow more to spend more.
So we haven't allowed this situation to blow out our fiscals.
So for many motorists, these free fuel promotions may be the best chance of financial relief.
I'm just going to fade that out so we don't get kicked because of that music. There you go, Joey. We talked lots through that. You said you had so many more thoughts. Do you want to wrap up that one before we move on?
Oh, no, just it's not an aberration that these former state-owned enterprises suffered an almost criminal lack of reinvestment when they were sold off in a fire sale. And it's like we're seeing the same thing now. Like, it's the power companies, it's the telcos, it's the post office is getting run down. You know, it's just all over the show. Like, I saw an article from some of the older estate houses being sold off, that they've all been scooped up by investors. Great success. It's like, yes, investors, because that's what happened last time. So the key government sold off public housing and they were scooped up by investors. And the national government before that sold off state houses and they were scooped up by investors. And now we have an investor class sitting on all of these formerly public assets and absolutely creaming it, doing no maintenance, doing no development, doing no great. Like when we talk about the telcos, like telecom strangled this country's access to internet for almost a solid decade before it took a government in to break them up into 3 different companies to get their fucking attention, and then we got high-speed internet. Privatization and the private sector is about extracting profits from us to its shareholders, not staying ahead of the curve and keeping their infrastructure, developing. Like, run it, bleed it until, like in the case of Otago with the Lines Company here, there was so much underinvestment into the power poles that they were literally rotting and falling over before anybody could do anything. And then because they had to reinvest so much money, then there wasn't a dividend paid. And the Lines Company down here is owned by the council. And then, of course, rates are going up and they can't get a dividend from the Lines Company. Like, it's just mental. A relative of mine pointed out the other day when it came to the power infrastructure in Otago, Dunedin used to own and generate its own power. This city built a hydro dam for itself and ran the power for the city as a public asset. And then, of course, we sold it off in the 50s because everybody got brainworms. Where is this great evil that we can't spend public money on public assets for the benefit of the public, that it is better to sell it off and have profits extracted and for the most part taken offshore?
Yeah.
It's an anathema to anything that I consider good for this country.
Yeah.
And we're trying to stuff the toothpaste back in the tube at this point.
Some chats that have come in over Red Rover. At what point is the martyring of Stephen again?
Which Stephen? That could be so many Stephens.
Late fee. Oh, sorry, I mean tax. Oh, sorry, I mean levy. Why am I paying this again? Thank you, JAL, and thank you, over Red Rover.
So we can reinvest into the BHN infrastructure.
So we can build up the product and then sell it to NZME. Is that right, Chewy? Is that what we're going to do? Something like that. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Contribution to Chewy's late fee fund. If Cabinet won't let kids stay home, will Cabinet not let those in need of support go without? Will Cabinet not let? Yes, okay, it's double negative. So if you're not going to let the kids stay at home, then make sure you support those without. Is what I'm going to get at that. It's not on the ballot. I predict we will have a low Easter road toll. Interesting. Hopefully zero.
That's a silver lining.
Help thanks to high petrol/diesel prices. If that's the case, we could just do it every Easter. Put $1 on a litre of petrol every Easter to try and get the road toll down. There you go. Study Boys NZ. Oh, don't pick on the poor private sector, hardworking millionaires. No, pick on them.
Yeah.
Okay. We
bully away.
All right. Anything from you before we go into the next one? Because the next one's kind of adorable, actually. I'm quite looking forward to it.
No. Set it. Oh, okay. This one. Right. I'm going to go and get a drink because I'm all dry mouth. But go for it.
You got your headphones on, so you'll hear this. Is that going to stay
connected?
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. While Stewie goes and gets a drink, let's have it. Oh, he disappeared himself as well. I didn't disappear him. He disappeared himself. There's a scrap going on between Louise Upston and Todd Stephenson, and I am here for it. There is this uncomfortableness that Todd Stephenson says some things we agree with, and he is an ACT MP, and most of the things that come out of his mouth are pretty horrifically awful. But this one's interesting. And what's also interesting is how put out Louise Upston is. She is offended that Todd Stephenson is speaking out against her grand plan. We're going to watch this one through, and then I'm going to bring a bit of context to what they say they're trying to do versus what they're actually doing.
From Robbie WIlliams to a famous football team, just some of the big acts coming here with the help of taxpayer money. But not everyone's in tune with how the government's major events and tourism package has been used. An ACT MP labelling it a slush fund. Political editor Mikey Sherman reports.
The English Premier League side Tottenham Hotspur set to play in New Zealand. Taking on Auckland FC, the Spurs visit in part supported by the taxpayer through the government's $70 million major events and tourism package.
We wanted to go out there and attract new events, new activity, and bluntly.
So Louise Upston is doing this, and you can tell she thinks it's a bloody brilliant idea. Todd Stephenson, whether he means to or not, decimates her reasoning. And then after we're finished with this clip, I will show you why her reasoning is even worse than what they think.
We're going to try some things as well.
But others are blunt in their criticism. ACT MP Todd Stephenson questioning why are taxpayers subsidising an event featuring billionaire-owned football clubs, calling out the government's package, saying it's just a slush fund, politicians picking winners and spraying public money around in the hope of a headline.
At this time, New Zealanders are having to tighten their belts, and I think we should be thinking about whether funding billionaire soccer teams to play in New Zealand is the right thing to do.
The Minister calling foul.
Normally I would have thought in coalitions that we talk to each other about it, so I've been making sure I have a chat to that MP.
When has that happened in this government? When? Just show one on a map. It's never happened.
It's handbags at 20 paces. The girls are fighting.
You're going to have a chat to that MP?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, she may have some robust feedback, but I'll have some robust feedback for her too.
The fund is aimed at attracting events that may not otherwise make it to our shores.
When some of these big events are looking at Australia, they just don't look at coming to New Zealand.
Robbie.
I'm just going to highlight this because this is hilarious. This turns this argument. So right, this is for events that wouldn't otherwise come here, Chewy. It wouldn't otherwise come here, so we're supporting these events. Like Robbie WIlliams.
Robbie WIlliams, also a recipient of the package, set to play 2 concerts later this year.
Robbie WIlliams has been here at least a dozen times already.
Well, he hasn't been to Christchurch.
Hasn't been to Christchurch. So it's not that he hasn't come to New Zealand, he hasn't been to Christchurch. Or has he?
Christchurch in 25 years. We've got a brand new stadium there, which I think is really exciting.
Well, look, I love Robbie WIlliams probably as much as the next person, but he actually was in Christchurch in 2001.
The coalition.
He's been to Christchurch. So she's technically right. She's 25 years. But he's been to Christchurch. He's been there by himself when he was a far less wealthy individual as well.
And partners also debating the return.
For concerts, it's $3.20 for every dollar invested, which is a really good return.
I'd also point to, though, a study MB did a few years ago where actually the returns were inflated by over 350%.
So you don't trust the numbers?
I don't.
I'm the sort of person who has conversations to someone's face. If you've got something to say, bring it on.
The Major Events Fund causing a coalition kerfuffle. Mikey Sherman, One News.
Kerfuffle!
Here's one of the
mainstream media kerfuffle mentioned.
So here's one of the main things I want to point out from this. I'm actually okay with us spending money on bringing events here, especially if they generate us an income. If we end up better financially off after an event than before, that's okay for the country. I'm not gonna fall down over that. Yes, Drew, you disagree?
But okay, so Robbie WIlliams coming to Christchurch. how much is that going to bring into the New Zealand economy from outside? Are people going to fly to Christchurch from outside to New Zealand and spend money in the New Zealand economy? It's a closed loop.
Okay, so you're saying it's money that's already in New Zealand that gets attributed to that.
It's New, for the most part, it's New. Okay. So their whole thing is the Robbie WIlliams fucking experience is going to come in, and they're going to buy from local suppliers, and they're going to employ some local crew and that sort of thing. But like when you're talking about hotel stays and hospo spends and that sort of thing, that is money that is already in the New Zealand economy.
I hear you.
It's just going to be spent in Christchurch, right?
It doesn't take away from the point that I'm going to make now. She said $3.20 for every dollar spent. That means let's just follow her logic through, okay? Because this is the other thing about what the hypocrisy this is. And actually the hypocrisy that I'm going to point out, Chewy, it would be external money coming in. Okay?
Okay.
So $3.20 per dollar spent, that means for that $70 million investment from the government, they get $224 million back. Let's just say, hypothetically, it's all from external sources. Let's not have that debate right now. The reason this is a problem, I find this a problem, and we have talked about this once before, it's when they chose not to give money to the America's Cup. And I'll give you a little bit of information from a very, very, very responsible Prime Minister.
No, look, we have a responsibility to be very grown up and responsible with taxpayers' money. And the reality is you've seen this week issues like Nelson Hospital, for example. The New Zealand public, as nice as it would be to support America's Cup, the reality is that we need to make sure that we're putting that money into things like better hospitals, better schools, better roading networks, better infrastructure.
That sounds great. Can we do that?
Yeah, it does sound great. But here's the thing, right? They turned down America's Cup, and look, rich man sport don't care, listen to the point. $75 million, right? $75 million. That was estimated to generate $2 billion to the Auckland economy. Now, yes, Chewy, hang on. Wait a second. A lot of that would have been, I agree with you, internally moving money around. However, compared to, say, for example, a Robbie WIlliams concert, there would be dozens of international teams here, dozens of dollars coming from outside of New Zealand to put into the economy. And for factual point, if every one of the $70 million is going to get us back $3, every single dollar is going to get us $3.20, that's $27. That's for every dollar at $75 million to earn $2 billion for Auckland or whatever for the country. That's a $27 to 1 return, not a $3.20 to 1 return, a $27 to 1 return. And Chewy, I think what you've said is actually really fair and is accurate. And so I would actually say again that doesn't take away from my point, because far more of the $2 billion would definitely come from offshore than of the $224 million with their 320 to 1 ratio.
100%. Like this. God, why am I having to agree with Todd Stephenson?
Second night in a row.
He's right. The things that they are choosing to point this money bazooka at, they're undeserving. Like, yeah, as much as I don't want to see public money spent on the America's Cup, it would bring very wealthy individuals into New Zealand, and they would spend up large while they were here. Well, for an event over the space of weeks.
But not even individuals. Think about teams. Hundreds of millions of dollars of teams with work sheds down on the...
They've all got to eat, and they've all got to have places to stay, and all of that sort of stuff. The teams and the people that want to watch that racing. You know, I don't like it, but I can acknowledge the math on that.
Sure, good.
Right? Yeah, bring on the money boat. But when it's something like Robbie, like this is this government to a T, right? And as a music fan, it grates me as well, right? Because I want to see money go to up and coming artists, people whose careers are going up, not artists at the fucking twilight doing a victory lap of the world or whatever. Like, this is not going to bring people to New Zealand to see Robbie WIlliams play at a brand new stadium.
Especially if he's playing in Australia. Yeah.
It is circuses for the voting base that they want to say, hey, you wouldn't have got Robbie WIlliams if it wasn't for cool, hip national.
Yeah.
You know, oh, do you like the football? Let's bring Tottenham Hotspurs over here, a team that has $3.5 billion. They don't need help. Yeah. If they want to play Auckland FC, they can just fucking come here and do it.
Yep.
You know?
I think the point you've made is really good, really valid, and I concede to that about the money going into Christchurch, but it's somewhat the majority of that money would be from within New Zealand. But even if we were to use Louise Upston's basically saying 320 to 1, then we can arguably say it's $27 to 1. And like we've already said, you know, the America's Cup, and with the America's Cup as well, the other thing it would do is obviously expose New Zealand tourism to the world. You know, images all over the world, photos of our harbours, that kind of stuff all over the world. Robbie WIlliams in a amazing stadium, I hear, would do something for the people in that stadium. So I just want to once again say, if it's like, let your yes be yes and your no be no, government. You can't say this business model doesn't work, but this one does, when it's kind of the same business model, but the one you turned down was more fruitful for the country than the one you went with. It does feel a little bit like Christopher Luxon wants a photo with Robbie WIlliams. And that's not the way to run a country. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, my position that this money should have been funneled directly to New Zealand events, New Zealand artists. Like if we're going to spend public money, let's spend it in this country. You know, something like the Homegrown Festival. Give them enough money to do a South Island Homegrown. Or something like that, where people will travel to a place and stay there for the weekend, spend their money for the weekend. And it'd be good for up-and-coming bands to get exposure and experience and a payday. You know, all of this sort of stuff. But no, we have to give public money to Robbie fucking WIlliams and the Tottenham Hotspurs and the NRL.
Yeah.
All of those guys really fucking hard up. I'm glad we're giving them a handout when we can barely pay support workers. When that responsible, vibrant young leader that you put up quite rightly said, we can't spend money on this event. We've got hospitals to build. Well, I want to rally behind that comrade's whole message.
Yeah. I guess the last thing, and I do want to move on because we've got one more story to do, but I guess the last thing was, I'm sorry to now kind of maybe sound like I'm flip-flopping a little bit, but if we were going to do this for a Robbie WIlliams, then what the country should do it is, as an investor, are we going to see a back-end cut of the $1, $3, $5 million he makes from the concert tickets that are sold? Like, if we're providing money towards this event happening, are we going to get a cut from the profits that this event happens? Or are we just going to go, it's for the exposure, it's for the $3.20 to 1? You know what I mean? Like, if it was looked at as an investment with a return, that's actually what a business would do, strangely enough, coming from the government of business.
Look, I've been involved in music, obviously not at the scale of the Robbie WIlliams thing, but of bringing bands to New Zealand. And look, I'm sure the scale of which I was around and the scale of the Robbie WIlliams, it's still the same thing. You don't make money on the New Zealand shows in your tour. We're too far away. Our audience is too small. Right? So you really just have to pitch it to the artists of, do you want a nice end of tour holiday in New Zealand?
Do you want to go see Hobbiton?
Have you tried a meat pie?
Would you like a Ferg burger?
Yeah. Like literally that. Yeah. Like, people that I know have convinced international artists to come to New Zealand with, do you want a meat pie? Do you like snowboarding? We can hook you up with some weed. And that works. They don't make any money. They had a fucking great time.
Yeah.
You know, here we are bribing Robbie WIlliams to come here.
Yeah.
Like, he probably, even with that, he may not make any money.
Yeah.
But we've certainly lowered his risk.
All right, some quick super chats, and then we'll move on to our last story. When did National ever make any kind of surplus? Bill Birch. We did it last night, didn't we? Bill Birch. Mm-hmm. There you go. In the 90s. We love coalition of chaos infighting.
Cockfighting.
Cockfighting, yeah. Study boy, why spend 70 million to bring show/sports here, then still costs a lot to go to?
$400 a ticket for Robbie WIlliams.
Are you serious?
Mm.
Sorry, my dude. Kerfuffle, brouhaha, argy-bargy, says Pete. Ryjan late fee was watching one battle after another. Arvid's let him have the subsidy, tax them out the wazoo. Kathy says Robbie WIlliams would have toured anyway. They all then posted that he was only touring because of the monetary support. It's a joke. Buddhist sticks. Hi all. It's buying the fish, not the fishing rod. Invest 70 million in New Zealand talent. I agree with Chewy. Here's my Chewy subsidy. Getting some love in there tonight, mate. Luke says Robbie will get a PAV on the Remarkables with Luxon.
Oh, that'd be so fucking cringe. I can see it happening. A fucked up handshake and a scenic vista.
All right, we're going to move into this last story because it is a story that's been going around a lot in the interwebs and news sources in the last wee while, all about what did Christopher Hipkins know about this advice. And the advice, and I am somewhat spitballing or generalizing, was that for 12 to 17-year-olds, there was a risk with a second booster of myocarditis, or the myocarditis risk we know. You know what I haven't heard, Chewy? And I'm not saying that we should just ignore that. What I would like to know, again, to know the subject of the whole thing, is how many 12 to 17-year-olds ended up with myocarditis. And I know there will be some, but is the increased risk meant it went from 10 in the country to 15? Did it go from 10 in the country to 200? Because that's quite an important part of this conversation as well, especially with a government that is just flying by the seat of the pants with good hopes and wishes that things don't go wrong. We haven't heard that yet. Now, this is a long clip. I don't know how much of it we'll get through, but I do want to highlight one thing really clearly to you. And that is the appropriation of anti-vaxxer. See what happens when you start talking about anti-vaxxers? Even the dog leaves. The appropriation of anti-vaxxer language from Ryan Bridge. We hear so often from some of those crunchies on the internet about media bias and these lefty shills. And when you hear how often Ryan Bridge refuses choice to say vaccine or vaccination and say the jab, you have to wonder if these crunchies are going to say, well, you know, Pat and Chewy can't talk to these people because they're biased on the left. How a credible, and this is, by the way, we're not credible news. We're a couple of rodeo clowns in Dunedin having some fun talking news. The New Zealand Herald is credible news. They have journalists and editorials. They have processes to go through. To hear how he speaks, honestly, makes me go, how can this guy interview anyone about COVID issues and COVID news? Because he sounds like, shall I say, anti-vaxxer adjacent. I'll just put that out there and see how it lands. So Chippy gives lots of answers here. Ryan Bridge won't hear them, to at a point where Chippy has to go mongrel and go, basically he says, well, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, Ryan. That's basically what he has to say to him.
Let's talk about COVID and the jabs. So you say you can't recall getting the advice, but the cabinet paper that the Herald unearthed shows that there was advice in a cabinet paper in your name. So when you say you can't recall, does that mean you don't read everything? Do you read everything?
Oh, look, I absolutely read everything, and I can tell you the timeline. You know, if we go back to August, we got the advice around...
This is really convoluted. And by convoluted, I don't mean bad, but there's a lot to follow through. I'm not even 100% clear on it yet, so listen to the dates. We'll try and work this out, because Chippy is saying there is a logic here as to why this happened and this happened. Ryan Bridge doesn't want to hear it. He just wants to know, why didn't you follow the advice? And Chippy explains it all, but it is it's like, I don't know, when you're reading a really heavy book and you really have to concentrate to get everything in that page, it feels a bit like this. So listen up, whānau, and you see if you can follow it, then you can tell me what's happening.
The teenage cohort, and the advice was to bring them into the vaccine program with a 2-dose course of vaccines, and we did that based on that advice. Now, that was not just advice from the technical advisory group, that was also the advice of MedSafe. MedSafe approved a 2-course dose of vaccines for teenagers. That approval never changed. So MedSafe, who ultimately make the decision about who should be eligible for medical treatments, they approved it. That approval's still in place as of today. That never changed. This particular advice was specific to the education mandate that applied to a very limited number of young people.
Yes.
And that advice, which was produced in December, said that the education mandate, the government should consider reducing that from 2 doses to 1. That advice didn't go to ministers. There was reference to it in March in the suite of cabinet papers that removed those mandates. So, what we've said is absolutely correct. We didn't get that advice at the time when we were making those decisions.
No, but you didn't. This is the point.
But it was referenced
Chris, this is
in
important.
the advice
This
that
is
removed
important.
the mandate.
You didn't get the advice at the time you were making the decision about a mandate, but you got the advice when the mandate was in place. You've just told me at the start of this that you read everything. So you read that there was a potential risk to young people at a time when there was a mandate in place, and you read it because you told me you read everything, and you didn't do anything about it.
Well, that's not true. We removed the mandate on exactly the same day. So the same day Cabinet considered that advice, the mandate was removed.
And you didn't know, and there's no evidence that your office was informed prior to that date. That's the first time you'd ever heard. The first time you ever heard there was a problem with the second jab was the date that you removed the mandate.
Well, that's not just my finding. That's the Royal Commission's finding as well.
Yes.
So for clarity, what Christopher Hipkins is saying is the day they found out about the potential issues for teens with a second vaccine was the day they removed it from the mandate. That's what he's just said. Now, I'll just go back 5 seconds because I do want you to hear this, because not only does Christopher Hipkins say that's what happened, he also is about to say that's what the actual commission found as well.
Well, that's not just my finding, that's the Royal Commission's finding as well.
Yes,
now,
but
let's also be clear what the Royal Commission found. It found that the risks around myocarditis...
We're not talking about the Royal Commission, we're talking about this cabinet paper.
Don't let me put any facts in the way of your argument, but fire away.
So this is the thing. Ryan Bridge wants to focus in on this cabinet paper that's been unearthed, found. It seems that Chippy is saying this was the information that was given in August, this was the information that was given in December, and the first time we knew of this issue was the day the mandates were removed. Now, there could be some politicking going on here, because I don't know why Ryan is trying to nail down when did you first read about it versus when did you take it off the mandate. Now, the way government works...
Really weird.
Yeah, the way government would work, I would assume, is you'd read about something, you'd have it come to you, you'd have the data come to you, and then you look it through, and then at some point after that, literally not the day of, you then implement it or don't. So it's like Ryan Bridge is trying to get out of Chippy, what was the day that you knew and what was the day that you implemented? Where Chippy's actually kind of said it was the same day. We'll see. But even if there was a delay of a day or a week or whatever, that's probably fairly natural process, wouldn't you say, Chewy?
Yeah, I'm not seeing. Please, chat, put me right if I'm wrong here. I'm not seeing what this big issue that Ryan is diving at.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. He's appropriated this anti-vaxxer language of the jab. Honestly, I don't think we're going to get to watch the whole thing because it goes for about another 4 minutes, and he probably says it another 6 or 8 times. But it also feels like he's doing what they would do, because he's trying to drill down into one thing to prove that Chris Hipkins is lying, incompetent, whatever it is. It's like, when you may or may not know, when you debate a flat earther and they want to debate with you about how the sun doesn't go down, it goes away. because it's a flat earth. And no matter how you show them, how many things you show them, they'll just keep on coming back to that one fact over and over and over and over again. It kind of feels like that. Now, I'm not accusing Ryan Bridge of that, but we've heard enough of these people speak, these anti-vaxxer community speak, and we've heard he sounds like one. He's asking questions like one, and he's appropriated language of them. So, I mean, maybe it would be fair to ask Ryan, do you believe in the COVID vaccine? Because if you don't, and you think it was or all the things then you shouldn't be involved in this interview. It's a conflict of interest. Just put. I don't know that. I'm just thinking that.
The cabinet paper is a fact. I mean, I didn't make it up, did I? How do you explain it?
Well, it was, as I said, it was the cabinet paper that removed the vaccine mandates. Well, it was one of a suite of cabinet papers all considered on the same day. The particular cabinet paper in question was actually looking at whether young children who didn't require vaccination, there was never a mandate applying to young children. That particular cabinet paper looked at whether they had been excluded through societal pressure, and it made reference to the advice from back in December. That was considered on the same day as the paper to remove the vaccine mandates for education settings and also to remove vaccine passes.
So you're sticking by this. You're saying the first time you ever became aware that there was an issue with a second jab for young people was the same day that you removed the vaccine mandate. In other words, there was no period of time where Chris Hipkins knew there was something that could be wrong and did nothing about it.
The reality is, if there was a period of time that Chris Hipkins knew there was something wrong, Chris Hipkins still couldn't have made that change. That's how it works. Cabinet, laws, advice changed. So I'm not saying that what Ryan's saying is true, but if it was, and Chris Hipkins found out Tuesday and it didn't get changed till the following Tuesday, that's probably the process that happens. Chris Hipkins doesn't pick it up and go, okay, press conference, I decree that I've just read this, so this is now law. That's not how laws and legislation gets passed and policies go through any organisation, let alone a government in a global pandemic.
Well, I think you've got to be clear here that the advice that we're talking about was specific to the existence of a vaccine mandate for education settings, for those working in education settings. This advice was not around whether there should be a 2-course dose available to teenagers. That was MedSafe's decision, and that decision still stands as of today.
Yes, but a mandate's important because that's government decisions, isn't it? That says basically if you want to stay involved, you've got to have the jab.
Absolutely, and that's why this is an important piece of advice. It's also why the Royal Commission's finding that it wasn't given to ministers at the appropriate time is a really important one.
So can we just clarify, and can you answer me directly?
It does feel like the interviewer is not giving Ryan the answers that he wants. Because Chippy has just said, this is what the Royal Commission found. The Royal Commission found exactly what I'm telling you. And that doesn't seem to collate with what Ryan wants to hear. And so he's seeking clarity. There's something coming up shortly, and whether we get to it or not, we'll see, where they're talking about advice from the podium. And Chippy goes, well, medical advice from the podium was given by the medical expert who was standing beside us. That's not my job. And even that doesn't seem to be enough to satiate sort of what appears to me like Ryan Bridge trying to take Chippy down on this. So if Chippy can go, the MedSafe said yes, or our medical expert like Ashley Bloomfield said this, it's almost like Ryan's like, no, you're at fault here. The answers aren't quite coming to him as he would wish. Okay to push play now, Chews? We get going?
Mm-hmm. Did Chris Hipkins know at any point there was a risk to young people from a second jab, or was the first time you learned that information on the day you...
I could help Ryan Bridge here. Actually, what Ryan Bridge needs is he needs the dates. Like the date of this, the date of this, the date of this, because it is a bit convoluted, right?
Remove the mandate. In other words, was there a mandate in place at the same time that you were aware there might be an issue with a second jab for young people?
The risks around myocarditis, this was the point that I was making before you cut me off, the risks around myocarditis were something that was discussed all the way through the vaccination program because evidence, it was relatively early on in the rollout of the vaccine and evidence was becoming more available around the risks and potential benefits of vaccination relative to myocarditis. That was broadly discussed with the public throughout the vaccination campaign, and the Royal Commission did find that we went to some lengths to make sure that people were aware of the risks around myocarditis and that those doing the vaccination were also given up-to-date information about the latest research and evidence around myocarditis when they were talking to those who they were vaccinating, so that there was informed consent.
How many times did you talk about the risk from the podium of truth during that period the mandate was
Even
It's
that?
another anti-vax thing.
Podium of truth, 100%.
in place?
Oh, very little, because on all of those
Which is the point,
press
isn't it?
conferences,
This is why parents...
So this is what he's about to say, right? He's about to say, Chippy's about to say, well, I didn't really talk about it because that wasn't my role. That was the guy. And straight away, Ryan's like, well, you didn't talk about it. This is the whole point. I was like, well, no, that you need to let Chippy answer, and he'll explain to you that wasn't his job to talk about the medical stuff.
Oh, very little, because on all of those
Which is the point,
press
isn't it?
This
is why parents are so
on all of those
angry
press
with you.
conferences, I was joined, and all of those press conferences, I was joined by a health expert.
Yes, sir.
That is why parents are so angry with you. That's an interesting narrative that I haven't really seen. Is there a movement of angry parents?
You have seen
going
it in
after
one.
Hipkins?
You have seen it. You have seen it in one community. You have seen angry parents and angry people in one community. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but it's the community that rhymes with panty-paxer. That community. There's some angry parents.
This whole thing is fucked, Pat.
Yeah, I know. That's why I thought we should try and watch the whole thing. It's a few minutes to go, but it does feel very. And I know there are people in the chat who are saying things about ownership models of NZME. I mean, I can't speak to that either, but appropriation, phrases, language, questions, and it looks like desired outcomes that the anti-vaxxer community would want for. So we keep going. You all right?
Mm-hmm. And on all of those
which is the point,
press
isn't it?
conferences,
This is why parents are so
on all of those
angry
press
with you.
conferences, I was joined, and all of those press
It
conferences.
does make me think about that conversation yesterday with a certain individual who will remain nameless, who made some good points against The Economist. Chippy, what parents? Ryan, you just made a really big sweeping statement. No, but what parents? You say parents are so angry. What parents are you talking about? I'm sure there's a parent or two, sure, but what parents are you talking about? Because then you'd get back to that particular community we've been talking about for this whole clip, I think.
I was joined by a health expert, or almost all of them, by a health expert. That was typically Dr. Bloomfield or one of the others from the Ministry of Health. And so the discussions around the research around vaccine efficacy and safety, I largely left to the health practitioners who had the relevant knowledge. But it's wrong to say...
So why didn't you talk about it more, Chippy, from the podium of truth, the jabs? Well, that wasn't my job. That was the health expert's job. So you can't look to me and say I didn't talk about it enough because it wasn't my role to talk about it. The medical stuff was talked about by the medical experts.
I largely left to the health practitioners who had the relevant knowledge. But it's wrong to say that we weren't very open about what we were hearing and learning throughout the process. The health officials who were giving those daily briefings alongside ministers spoke to that extensively.
And you're happy with how they did it? You're happy with standing there and not saying anything, leaving it to them?
So what is actually, this is what Ryan Bridge is now asking. Ryan Bridge is now saying, but what was given out from them wasn't good enough. Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you overrule the medical expert and say the truth that I know was out there? Do you get this? Like, I genuinely want someone to ask him this question now about what his beliefs and thoughts are around the COVID vaccine, Joey.
This is, and I'm going to choose my words very carefully here because I always make Pat nervous. This is cooked.
Yeah.
Look, the people in the chat have said it as well. I'm drawing a straight line from this being an editorial choice from a certain Canadian billionaire with anti-vax views who has bought himself a big old chunk of NZME.
Well, I mean, like, I'm not going to say that, and we're not saying that officially. I understand how that's a feeling within the chat and some people's honest held beliefs, perhaps. But I think the one thing we would really like to see is actually Ryan Bridge the subject of a few questions. Because, you know, if you are someone with very strong enough opinions to skew your view on a fair conversation, then you shouldn't be having these interviews. Like, as a journalistic, like me and Chewy, we're skewed and we're biased, but you know that, and you're coming to talk to a couple of rodeo clowns. But if you're putting yourself up as one of the preeminent sort of media outlets in the country, NZME, New Zealand Herald, and you have a duty of care to be fair and, pardon me, Fox News, but balanced and accurate, then if someone, and we're not talking about any one particular person now, but if someone was a raving anti-vaxxer or believed that sort of thing, they shouldn't be having conversations and they shouldn't be hosting interviews with people about COVID. If you were doing a podcast with Joe Rogan, fill your fucking boots. If you're professing to be a journalist doing a show for for probably New Zealand's largest newspaper, I'm guessing the Herald probably is, then conflicts of interest mean a lot more. That's what I'm going to say, Chewy.
Yeah, 100%. Mate, that was just like, I mean, I know we dunk on Ryan Bridge all the time because it's easy, because he's terrible. But that is the most egregious interview I've seen from him. Yeah, I'm stunned.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm glad you're stunned. That's the correct outcome. And thank you for sticking. We basically did get through the whole thing. The last comment was just going to be a Chippy saying, yeah, of course I'm happy with it. I did my job, they did their job. So, all right, let's have a look at some of these super chats, and then I think we'll knock off for the day. I've got a snorer down there in the corner. Look at that.
Yeah.
Do you like the low angle? The camera's on the floor now. It's not up high. Yeah.
It's very good.
Looking pretty comfy. Tane says, and even more important, myocarditis is caused by the infection. Yeah, I just did a little bit of Googling while that was on as well. And I tried to Google 12 to 17-year-olds myocarditis from the COVID vaccine, because we do know it did happen. And obviously there's not a lot of exact information. There's one that says 63 cases per million second doses. And I know that we've got 14 million doses altogether, but half of those are going to be first doses.
So hang on. That's the 63 out of a million.
Per million second doses, not just million, second doses.
God, if someone told me that was the odds, I would roll the dice on that.
Yeah. I'm just typing in now.
That's such a small chance. You know, like, yeah, and I worry for people that are just latching on to the fact that they've learned how to say myocarditis without understanding what it is. It's a heart infection. Like my father-in-law died of myocarditis.
Oh, I don't even know if it's a heart infection. It's like a temporary heart condition that's very easily treatable. It can cause death if not treated.
Yeah. He caught a flu, and the infection travelled to his heart, and he died. And that was well before COVID. So I worry about these people that don't have the knowledge or the ability to take advice from experts, going, so if you get the jab, then you get myocarditis, and that's what the jab does, is it gives you the myocarditis.
Okay. Well, let's just. I'm going to just bring another screen up, just because we've talked about it. Let's just wrap this up with some actual, just the facts. Yeah? So it says 63 cases per million second doses. So the total doses in New Zealand is 14 million, right? But it's not 63 times 14, because it says second doses, of which primary doses was 8 million. So that takes us down to 6 million, of which a whole bunch of these was pediatric and infant ones as well. So you're left with 2.7 plus 1.1, so that's 3.8, 4.8, 5.5. So 5.5, so it's going to be 330 cases in New Zealand. if those stats are right, from 12 to 17-year-olds, it's going to be 330 cases. Now, I'm not suggesting that those 330 cases don't matter, but that's the reality of, at its worst, what that could have caused. 330 cases of myocarditis, which is incredibly healable. That's not a very good word. Treatable, if you know about it, if it's gotten. I know that the young plumber in Dunedin who died of it because they didn't seek help for it, which is unbelievably sad. And we have nothing but grace for his partner. And she can say whatever she likes about the vaccine. I'm never going to challenge her because she lost her partner because of the vaccine. An extreme outlier, obviously, and I think it's pretty well proven, might be the wrong word, but believed that if they had have gone for help earlier, possibly wouldn't. I don't want to say, I don't want to actually say it wouldn't have happened because I don't want to put any shade on her. I'm sure she's still suffering today. So yeah, okay, so we're talking 330 cases, and I'm not doing that to minimize it. Through this whole show, I've just wanted clarity. So clarity is potentially 330 cases of myocarditis in 12 to 17-year-olds, of which I haven't read anywhere of a single death. So just for the information and nothing else. Pete says, remember Jim Grennan owns 20% of Big Herald now. Grant Wright. NZME editorial policy for Jim Grennan and Atlas Network. Wow, you guys, you're further down the line than me. Gold says, for Ryan to remove himself would suggest he has integrity. That's better. Let's have the PH.
That's economy.
Grant Wright again. Grennan funded Bachelor and Baker $2. Yeah, I'd be quite interested in interviewing Jim Grennan and just go, why do you choose? Well, the thing about this is what we understand from the reporting. The thing about Bachelor was it was actually Grennan's idea. Bachelor said in the court case that it was Grennan's idea to do the court case. I'm pretty sure of that. I should take that with a grain of salt, but I can research that and correct myself tomorrow night if that's not the case. Why? What is it about these people who are, in my opinion, terrible that you keep backing? I'd love to ask him that question. I'd love to. I'm sure it would be might not be a very meaningful chat, but I'm interested by it. All right, Chewy. That's me, I think. Anything else we want to throw out there before we say goodnight?
I'm not going to add to the show by playing the video, but I urge everybody to, if you haven't seen it already, you're aware of the story about the woman that fell down a waterfall and had to
with
get
their dog, with their collie,
and they left her dog behind.
Yeah,
they found her dog after a week alone in the bush, and I had not been aware of all of the story, and I had it relayed to me that the woman died. Oh. And the dog they couldn't find the dog because of that. So when I first saw these stories of, oh, good, they found the dog, but it's still a very sad story, to watch the rest of the video and realize that the dog's owner is still alive and that there's a happy reunion at the end of the video.
I think I heard that died as well.
She broke her arm. She was quite badly hurt. But yeah, she is alive.
Yeah.
And they found her dog, and a helicopter went in today and got her. And the reunion video of the car park is a cure to every bad news story that has been out there today.
Are you sure we don't want to say it? It might be quite nice to finish with that. Do you have it, or do I need to look for it?
I can find it, I'm sure. Because
I've just typed in
because it's amazing.
I've just typed in border collie and helicopter, and I think I found it. Oh, is this it right here? Should we bring it up?
The race is on. Yeah, I've got a bigger one if that's. Oh, no,
don't boast. It's not the size.
I've got a girthier video that we can put up. But I ruined it. I'm sorry, everybody.
Just go and then show us your big one. Get it out for everyone.
No, yours is fine. Yours is fine. It's perfectly
don't
fine.
Patronise me. Mine's much more slender.
Lovely. It's adorable.
No, don't. This is not okay. This is not okay, right? This is shaming. This is shaming. Molly the collie found a week after.
Oh, look at that.
It's a happy dog. Oh, there it is. Looks like when they found it.
They found her The same place where the woman fell down.
Oh, she stayed.
She stayed in the area for a week.
Oh, what a good dog.
It's cold and it's wet there, and she stayed there. We don't deserve dogs, Pat. We don't deserve them.
And they brought their dog with them, what, just for shits and giggles?
I think he brought another dog just to help. Dogs love helping, whether you're able to help or not.
So then you can say to Maya, look, I'm one of the good ones. Look, I've got one of your species as well.
Yeah.
It is pretty cool. Do we know, like, a dumb but serious question, do we know anything about the helicopter? Like, did they just volunteer to go find it? Did someone have to pay to do it? Do we know anything?
The helicopter search was crowdfunded by the community.
Ah, that's so cool. What a cool story.
So they went up there with thermals to try and find the dog.
Oh, that's so cool.
And there she is. So she was in the bush for a week.
Wow, she looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean,
in the story, when you read the story, they take great pains to go, we think she would have been eating possum and not kiwi, because we've trained her that because there's kiwis in the area, that she's a kiwi trained dog.
Oh, mum's crying. Dog mum's crying as well. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. We like Ryan Bridge again now. It's all okay. Everything's fine.
No, we like dogs. We like dogs.
Okay.
That's it. Don't extrapolate out from that.
All right, Whānau. It's been an interesting one tonight, actually. Thanks for joining us this night. Tomorrow night, I have semi-organised to have Tanya Waikato come and join us. Hopefully that's all put together. It's not really about anything in particular, but just sort of a catch-up. And also we'll talk a bit about Tanya's new show, which starts on Sunday night, which I have the credits for now, which I'm not going to show you. Other than that, I guess we'll be back tomorrow night as well from 9. And then Chewy, you're off from Thursday night for a couple of weeks. Do you want to tell us about your fun time?
On Thursday. So my fun time doesn't start on Thursday. I'm driving up to Timaru to help my mum paint the batch. But
if you were committed, you'd be here Thursday night and you'd get out of bed at like 4 a.m. That's what you'd do.
Jesus Christ. And then next week,
just Pat.
Next week I am off to Tasmania on a very single-minded mission. I want to steal a wombat. So I'll be back in a couple of weeks, or I'll be on the news. We'll see.
Either or. Look forward to seeing you again. All right, Whānau, you're beautiful.
What?
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war path to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with the A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, neither this way or that, and we'll be analyzed by what you and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
Nothing really else to add to the show. Is there anything you want to wrap up with, Chewy?
Not that I can think of.
Oh, well. Let's just leave it at that then and say, kia ora whānau. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for the next edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.